also an undergraduate research assistant doing computational chemistry and materials on campus. For more of the fun things I do, I'm not all academics. I'm a part of UMass, which is, it's called our outing club here. Their slogan is, we take people out in the woods and do things with them. And then I'm also a part of the intramural volleyball team, so yeah.
All right, so we do have some mics going around. If you have a question, if you would like to be that first person to ask a question, we would love it. Raise your hand nice and high. If not, I can kind of warm up the panel a little bit. Oh, we have one right in the front, yeah. Nice and high if you could raise your hand, yeah. Oh.
What's the on-campus housing like?
Yeah, so I guess one of the RAs will take it. We do definitely have a few different options on campus. Each dorm is kind of a little bit different. Some of the dorms in the Southwest are called what we have Z rooms. So you'll have like one room on one side, and then there's a little hallway that leads to another room on the other side. They're about the same like width and everything like that. Those are typically doubles. You can have them be triples if you request that. And then some of our more common dorms on campus are like your standard double rooms that are like the basic square shape with your closets on both sides and each room.
All right, we are coming in the front third row.
How different are all the dining halls from each other? Do they generally offer the same options, or is there a large variety between them?
Yeah, so we're gonna cover dining on tour today, so we'll stop outside of one and you guys will get to see. But every student is gonna die on the hill of which dining hall that they think is the best. So, you know, I don't know what your guys' favorites are, but I definitely have a favorite and I'll tell you guys on my tour today, but they all serve the same food more or less. One's called like a healthy dining hall because it doesn't serve soda, but they all basically serve, you know, they have a deli station, a stir fry station, your chicken, your fruit, and everything like that. And we are #1 dining for 8 years in a row. So you guys are gonna hear that probably about 100 more times today, but you have to eat on campus if you do anything today.
I was just wondering what school you transferred from and what's like the biggest difference from here and there.
Yeah, so I transferred from a very small school in Ohio called Oberlin College. Do we have anyone from Ohio today? Yeah, there's never usually anyone from Ohio. It was a really small school. It was about 2,000 kids, and so I really wanted a small university. And I think wherever you guys are thinking about for going to school, really think about the idea that you can make a big school small, like UMass. You can find your clubs, find your people, but you could not make a small school big. No matter what I did, I couldn't add more people at the end of the day. And I really wanted to be closer to home. I wanted a better pre-law program, and I wanted to be able to drive home. And I love UMass, and it's just so much fun here, and I love it.
I heard that there was a housing crisis going on. Has that been resolved lately? As juniors, have you guys had any issues with getting housing here?
So I feel like we get this question every year, but in my opinion, there is not really like a housing crisis. There is enough housing on UMass and outside of campus for everyone. You may not get like your first choice, but like who ever does, honestly, in life. But I'm a junior right now. All my friends are juniors, and none of us are homeless next year, and we'll all be seniors. Some of us are living off campus in like some of the apartments in downtown Amherst and in Sunderland, but the rest of my friends are staying in North Apartments, which is another residential area on campus. I will say there is enough housing for everyone. Like I said, you may not get your first choice, but that never happens in most families.
We're gonna go in the back. Hold on 1 second.
What's the process like for getting research assistantships and stuff?
Okay, I can answer this one. There's a few different ways you can go about doing this. We'll talk about this on tour, but at the library there's this really great office called the Hours, which stands for the Office of Undergraduate Research and Studies. So you can go there, you can say, hey, I'm majoring in chemical engineering. Within chemical engineering, I'm interested in more environmental conservation, things like that. And they have like a catalog list of every single professor that's doing something relevant to that, and they'll get you matched up with one. So that's a good way to do it if you're kind of unsure where to start. How I went about doing it is I looked into all of the professors within chemical engineering, but you also don't have to do it within your major. You look at their research, it's pretty much all posted interest you, make an appointment with this professor, not just with the intent of like, hey, I want to do research with you, but just to kind of learn more about them, what they are researching, to say, hey, do you have a quick 30 minutes, maybe for us to grab lunch, I can talk to you about research. Talk to them, really get to know what they do, like why it's important to them, and then at the end you can be like, do you have any space for an undergraduate research assistant? I think it's definitely very possible to do. I had friends that were doing it as soon as their second semester freshman year, so there's a lot of great opportunities.
Is there an option to live outside in the first year, or the student has to be in the dorm?
So we have 100% of our freshmen living on campus during their freshman year, and then we'll talk about it on tour, but usually we see about 25% of people like taper off after that. As people like get further into their studies, they tend to want to live off campus or like want to live with more of their friends somewhere else as well. So, but we do like having most of our freshmen on campus so they can kind of get to know everyone else in their major and in their grade, things like that.
If the students decide to live outside, is it okay?
If you're a commuter student, we definitely have a commuter student like facilities for that. However, we do require 100% of freshmen to live on campus their first year.
And the dorms are co-ed, right?
Sorry?
Dorms are co-ed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the back. There we go.
Good morning. Roughly what percentage of attending students on campus are involved in Greek life? And if the student isn't involved in Greek life, you know, in terms of like fun on the weekends and things to do, still very involved, or it's all Greek?
Yeah, so I'll start off this and then I'll pass it off to River, but about 8 to 10% of our students here are involved in Greek life, whether that's a traditional fraternity or sorority or a pre-professional fraternity. We have a business pre-professional frat as well as a pre-law one. So I like to say it's small but mighty. It's there for you if you want it, and if you don't want anything to do with Greek life, you do not have to. None of us are involved with Greek life on this panel. My best friend is, so I say I'm sorority adjacent. I get to go to all of her functions without paying those pretty hefty dues, so I think it's the best. But there's so much to do if you're not involved with Greek life. I'll let River take this part, but there's so much to do, whether it's going on a hike, going downtown, exploring. We both love thrift shopping. There's honestly too much to do here that sometimes I struggle with what exactly to do on that weekend or something.
Okay, wait, I think you explained it perfectly. I was gonna add something, but there's nothing to add.
Does that answer your question?
So I was really curious about the honors college and what's that's like on top of what you're majoring in. And also, I did a little bit of research into honors dorm, so essentially what is that process like being a part of it?
So the honors college, I'll let Donna just cover this too because I think we're all in the honors college, but it's kind of like the cherry on top of the UMass Sunday. So it's there for you if you want it and if you're accepted. If you're not accepted initially, you can apply to transfer into the honors college after your first semester at UMass, and the acceptance rate once you're already a student is a lot higher. And then once you're in the honors college, you don't major in honors, you kind of just do an extra set of curriculum on top of your classes. So I'm an honors legal studies major, so I'm doing my legal studies classes, and then I'm also completing honors on top of that, which is about 1 to 2 classes a semester in the honors college. So it's not too much work, and then at senior year, you write a thesis as well.
Yeah, I lived in the honors college for like 1 semester. I've been in the honors college like all of my semesters here, but only lived there for 1 because I lived in Southwest my first year, then moved to the honors college and then became an RA in Southwest again. I lived in a suite with a couple of my friends. It was actually like the 4 of us were all friends. I had a single, which was amazing. One of my other friends had a single, and then there was a double. It had like a bathroom, a common room. Yeah, but the apartments have kitchens. That's the only difference. Apartments have kitchens, whereas the honors suites don't have a kitchen. But it was pretty nice. The dorms are newer, but I still love Southwest and back there again. Can I say enough good things about Southwest? Favorite area.
Well, thank you all for being here. I think this question can be best answered by Celia. So I'm a pre-law student, and I was wondering, given UMass more rural nature, how well does the school support you in finding like legal internships and like career opportunities?
Yeah, so here at UMass, we don't have a defined pre-law track, but whatever major that you want to do, you can meet with our pre-law advisor. Shout out Diane Curtis, she's amazing. She kind of manages all the pre-law students here at the university. So the most common students will do legal studies or political science, but I know some people are doing business. Like you want to go to law school, and Lindsay's in our Eisenberg School of Management, so you can do kind of whatever major you want, and then you can kind of meet with this professor to talk about pre-law opportunities. And then under our legal studies and political science departments, we have a few professors that run internships during campus. So last year I went to one of my professor's office hours, and he was the legal studies and poli-sci internship coordinator for the entire department. And I just walked in to his office hours, and I walked out with a guaranteed internship for the next year. So kind of just reaching out to professors, seeing who's involved in what. We have a great database on our website, so you can kind of find out professors and everything. But there's been a plethora of opportunities, and honestly too many to choose from. So there's a lot here for you. And someone told me if you meet with that pre-law advisor and you get a letter of recommendation from her, there's a 90% acceptance rate to law school, like based on scores and everything. So she's great.
I was just wondering what the business program opportunities are for summer internships and paying wise, how expensive it is like, in general. Or sorry, I just worded that wrong. How much do you get paid in the summer, or if they're unpaid internships?
Sure. So there's definitely a bunch of different options that you can choose from when it comes to Eisenberg internships. UMass as a whole, we have a platform called Handshake where you can kind of search for all different kinds of internships regardless of what your major is. And a lot of students will go that route and apply to internships or reach out directly if you have connections. But Eisenberg does have its own like career fairs, career centers, and career coaches. So if you're interested in finding an internship or a job for the summer and things like that, our advisors within Eisenberg can help you definitely go secure those. From my experience, I actually did an internship abroad last summer in Barcelona, where I interned at a startup company called Pets and Vets, which was like a startup technology company. And that was an unpaid internship, but that was also by choice. I definitely also had offers to do paid internships right here in the Boston area, but I did want to go study abroad, and so I chose to do that as well. In terms of pay, it depends on what company you go for. Some will pay more than others, but almost all of the business internships within the summer are mostly paid.
How do you go about finding a job on campus? And typically, like, how easy is it to get? Can you, if you want to work on campus, is it a work study, or can you just do it to get money on the side?
I can answer this. So I actually have 6 jobs on campus. I'm very active, but they're all quite small, and so it's definitely manageable. I'm not a work study student. I'm a full-time student here at UMass, and I'm able to manage that, so it's definitely possible. But we have a few different ways that you can do that. We have a UMass job board where you can go onto the job board and kind of see all the jobs that are open and posted on that website. You can also go walk right up to any of our student businesses or businesses on campuses in general and ask if they're applying. Most of the time they are looking for students to come and work for them, to pick up more hours and things like that, so you're welcome to do that as well. But 2 of my jobs are just TAing for 2 different classes, and I got those simply from just talking to professors. So if that's something you're interested in, you can definitely do that as well. Or if you're looking for something a little bit different, like tour guiding, these are more things that you can kind of just figure out by walking through the student union. A lot of people will be tabling, just looking for students to volunteer and work.
We're gonna switch to the back. There we go.
What's the largest class size we can expect, and are the majority of classes taught by TAs or the professor?
So the largest class size is, like, the largest auditorium here is 450, but those bigger classes are divided up into smaller and smaller discussion sections, usually around 25 students, so you get to make like friends within your specific class. I took Introduction to Microeconomics my freshman year with 450 people, and in the discussion section it was like 25 students, and the 6 students around me, we just formed a group chat and we went over problem sets every week. So the discussion sections definitely help make a class feel smaller. There's also iClickers as well, so it's not for attendance and just gathering questions and stuff like that. Then there's also SIs, which is supplemental instruction. And that's a twice weekly held review session for most general education classes. That is usually for students. Sorry, I just worded that wrong. That is usually usually set amount of set group of students come every week, but it's open to all students, so they end up forming a close connection as well. I'm an organic chemistry lab TA, and there's like 500 people TAing for that entire lab, or 500 students in that entire lab. But there's like 23 TAs. I've taken the lab before, so, rather than like someone else who hasn't taken the lab, so I feel like I have more of a personal knowledge on how to do the experiments, how to run through the experiments with the students. River was in the section right next to me this past week, so she saw me in action, I guess. But I would say that the TAs have taken a class before and they know from personal experience the study strategies and how well they should relay that information to students on how well they should study or what they should study and how to do it. So there's not really a difference in the teaching.
I have a question in the middle.
On my first tour on UMass Amherst, there was a brief mention about collaboration with other colleges. I just wanted to know how that worked out and how someone could apply for that.
Yeah, so we're also going to touch upon this on tour, but this is what's called our 5-college consortium. So here at UMass, we're really lucky because we're in the vicinity of 4 small liberal arts colleges. So we have Amherst College right down the road, Smith College, Hampshire College, and Mount Holyoke College. And UMass students, as well as those students, can take up to 8 credits a semester at any of these neighboring schools. And I'm actually planning to do this next semester. And so I went on through our UMass portal, which is how we registered for classes. I typed in the barcode of the class I wanted to take at Amherst College, and I registered through that. And so it's really cool because with my minor in women and gender studies, UMass is a great department, but Amherst College has an excellent department that is probably a little bit better. And so I'm really excited to take classes there. And it's super easy. We have a bus system that runs all throughout campus, and it can take you within a 30-mile radius of all of these colleges. So if you do want to take a class like that, Hampshire College does skydiving courses, Smith College does ceramics classes. So if you want to skydive every Tuesday at Hampshire College, you can take that bus right down there and jump out of a plane. I will not be doing that, but it's up to you. And definitely utilize it. About 4 to 6% of our students here take a different college or take a class in the 5-college consortium. So they're amazing. These professors are world renowned as well as our professors at UMass. So I'm really excited. Thank you.
I have a question up here right in the front row.
Can you talk a little bit more about the honors program, and are there honors in your major and sort of in the college? Are those two different things? And are the classes smaller? And separate question, but no one's asked about study abroad yet, if someone wants to speak to that.
Yeah, so the honors college is like a small subset of students that add honors on top of what they're already doing. So it's like, I think Celia said this before, but like I'm an honors economics and public health student here. There's no really separate like honors, like it's not really like a major, it's just like I guess like a cherry on top of your UMass Sunday, let's just say that. But the honors college does feature smaller class sizes, around 15 to 25 students, if you're interested in more in smaller class sizes. You won't, I just found this out when I got here, but you won't know if you like small classes or big classes until you get here. I love big classes. The bigger it is, the more I'll be gravitated towards it. There's also like the thesis, as Celia mentioned, and there is the, you want to answer the rest of it?
Yeah. Smaller class sizes, a thesis, probably a better chance of like connecting with your professor just because they are smaller and these professors oftentimes have really studied these niche topics. The opportunity to live in nicer dorms. They're built in 2013 and they're the only ones that have air conditioning. It's kind of just a community of honor students. And then to answer your study abroad question, I'll pass it off to Lindsay.
Yeah, so we have a couple really unique things about UMass study abroad programs. One of those is that any major at UMass can go abroad. It's not limited to any which or whatever major that you are. So I know, for example, a lot of nursing students are really gravitated toward UMass because they can study abroad, whereas at other universities they may not be able to do that. So that's something that's really great about UMass. We also have another unique program here where you can do internships and study abroad, or you can just do an internship or just do a study. Most other schools you can just do your studying, which while it's great to get some credits in, if you do want to do it in the summer or winter and don't want to miss out on that time, or you don't have any more classes that you need to take that you can do abroad, it's definitely a great opportunity to be able to do an internship while you're abroad instead. So that's what I ended up doing. But our UMass Study Abroad portal is really, really easily accessible. We have tons of programs to choose from, and we're going to talk about this on tour as well, but you can actually go to 6 out of 7 of the continents here from UMass. So everywhere except for Antarctica, you used to all for that, but we don't anymore because our professor retired. So sorry if you wanted to go to Antarctica, maybe one day. But yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we have the 5 College Consortium, Study Away, and Study Abroad programs here.
In the middle, yeah.
When you were introducing, I noticed you guys are in a lot of clubs. How do you find all of those, and how does all that work?
So I went to there's a club expo on the top floor of the student union, in the student union ballroom, where there's a bunch of like, it's kind of like what's that show called where they're just like shouting at you? All the clubs, the club fair. But it's in the show. I forget which one it is. But they're basically like, oh, come join our club, come join our club. You'll give your email to like about 20 different clubs, and I'll only show up to like 2 of them. That's kind of how I got involved in my club. I am the vice president of the Pakistani Students Organization. I'll be president next year, which should be fun. It's actually been amazing. I just held an event in this very room on this past Saturday with 450 people. It was like a $20,000 event. It was crazy. It was really fun. But you basically get involved in clubs in that way. There's academic clubs, there's cultural clubs, there's religious clubs, like the sororities and fraternities, pre-professional. There's also like a bunch of like activity clubs, like the outing club, skiing board club, Habitat for Humanities, I would include in that. But you basically just go to that club fair, just put your email everywhere, they'll send you emails about their JIT meetings, you show up, make some friends, and then hopefully you stick around.
Yeah, I would also say the easiest thing that I always tell like incoming freshman students or freshman students to do is like join your major club. We have clubs for every single major here on campus, so that's a great way to get to know other people that are studying the same thing as you. So yeah, that's kind of my like first recommendation, and then you can always branch off from there as well.
Regarding study abroad, are there any study abroad programs that are a little harder to get into than others? Are any of them selective, or can you just go wherever the hell you want?
I would say depending on like the season that you want to go, there are definitely some locations that are more popular than others, and so that may be considered a little bit more competitive. But I've never heard of a student not getting to go where they wanted to go when they wanted to go. So I would say like you'll definitely be able to go wherever it is that you may choose. But there are definitely some seasons, like for example, if you want to go to Florence in spring, a lot of students really want to go to Florence in spring, and so you may like see some competitiveness there.
Were any of you in the residential academic program, and would you recommend it? And let us know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so a lot of schools have what are called living learning communities, and we call those RAPs here, which are residential academic programs. We have so many different ones, and we can definitely get into this more on tour today at our housing stop. But my sophomore year, I lived in a RAP in Southwest, which is the location they've been talking about a lot. This is 5 high-rise towers and a lot of low-rise buildings. Over 6,000 students live here. But I lived in a building that was 22 floors with entirely transfer students. So it wasn't a transfer RAP. And there's other RAPs for engineering students, Eisenberg students. Pretty much almost every major has a RAP of some sort. And we also have defined residential communities, which are like RAPs for certain cultural communities. I loved being in a RAP. I think it was a great way to kind of acclimate to UMass and be in a situation where everyone else was kind of going through the same thing I was. And people, if you come in as a freshman and you are just really into engineering, that's going to be a great thing for you because you're going to be with students who are also really interested in the same major, and it's a great way to meet friends and people. And typically, if you live in this RAP, you're required to take a 1-credit class. It happens once a week, and so my 1-credit class was in my building, so I got to roll out of bed at 9:50, go to my 10 a.m. transfer RAP class, and a lot of times these 1-credit courses, you'll have the opportunity to be a teaching assistant for them for the next year, which a lot of times is a paid position, so I did that, and it was great.
Hi, this question is for the finished, right? Is that okay? Sorry. I wanted to find out about you said you did all of the things, it sounds like. With the economics major, is that through Eisenberg or is that separate?
So the economics major is separate from Eisenberg. It's in the social and behavioral sciences school. So it's like in the same school as like political science, sociology, anthropology, legal studies, that type of major.
Okay, and then all the research, the medical, like the jobs and stuff that you guys had, was that you had to go out and get it, or was that, you know, you showed up at the hours or whatever it was and they helped you find these jobs?
Yeah, so the medical assistant job that I got here, I emailed UHS at UMass.edu and someone answered. And at that, I emailed at the perfect time when they were looking for people. It's usually in the beginning of the semesters for the next semester. So that's how I got that. The research jobs, so I'm in 2 labs, but one of them, the professor was new to UMass, and I knew that, so I knew she was gonna be looking for research assistants. So I reached out to her like the summer before, like September, the summer before this year actually, and she was like, come on in, like, well, we can like learn some techniques and stuff like that. And my other one was, it was in my sophomore year, but basically the school public health sent out an email for like an internship in the Holyoke District Courts, public health related. And I did that for a semester, and then we got $1 million grant to expand the program to another court, and I got brought on as a research assistant the next semester, and now I'm on 2 projects for that lab. Both, yes.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask, is this all within like a balance for you? Are you able to like sleep and see friends?
Yeah, so it does work out because a lot of these jobs have like very low time commitment. Like research is like not always like, I've a lot of like 10 hours per week, but it usually doesn't go that long. I maybe go into the lab like 15 minutes every single day, do a measurement, and then come out. And for the other one, that it works. You work with people, so there's a lot of meetings and interviews and focus groups that you have to do, which takes like maybe about 2-3 hours out of every day. But I would say like my schedule's pretty flexible because I loaded most of my classes on in my freshman sophomore year, so in my junior and senior year, I can spend more time on my activities, which is one way you could go about it, or you could just like spread all of your stuff out throughout the years and just do it that way.
And then with the school this large, the research that you guys do, is that with professors or is that with TAs or?
So the research is all with professors. There's usually like a principal investigator, which is the professor, and then there's like postdoc fellows. I work with 2 research fellows in one of my lab, and the other one is just me, the professor, and a grad student. So I would be with her almost like every 3 days, honestly, and just go over data. But usually there's like a hierarchy. You usually work underneath like the research fellow or the postdoc, and then the professor is above that. But there's usually like a weekly lab meeting every week that you all interact with.
And then the other question, sorry, I have so many.
No, you're fine.
With the honors college, I keep hearing like you guys are part of the honors campus, a great college, and it's amazing housing, and it's only 10 years old. Why is everyone living in Southwest?
So I lived in Southwest mostly because both my sisters came here, and they recommended me to live in Southwest. In the end, I didn't really care about like, the housing conditions. Like I didn't care about if it was new. I just wanted like the social part of like the housing. And Southwest is like one of the more active, more social residential areas on campus. There's also 2 dining halls right in Southwest. There's a lot of students walking around everywhere. In my experience, like when I got here during freshman year, everyone was just saying hi to me for no reason. I didn't even know them, but it was just part of that like freshman, surge when people come here and just want to be friends with everyone. And I know a bunch of people that live in the honors college their freshman year. They had an absolute blast, but my home is Southwest forever.
Yeah, I'll add on to that real quick. There's some raps that take place in the Honors College. I don't know which ones off the top of my head, but for me, living in a transfer rap was more important than the air conditioning. That was a really tough decision to decide between. So that was more important, but the Honors College is amazing, and pretty much all my friends lived there last year, so I was kind of part-time in Southwest, part-time in the Honors College. But if you get into the Honors College, definitely live there. It's very nice.
Over Southwest?
That's a tough debate. I think Donna should say yes. I would say it depends on what your interests are, what rap you want to join.
We also kind of call Southwest like the city outside the city. Like we have so many students that live there. And for example, this upcoming weekend we have a Southwest Carnival, which like gets planned by students for students, and there's a lot going to be going on. So it's definitely like you'll be able to find something that you want to do if you're looking forward in Southwest.
So like, what are there in terms of like live music and like live events around like UMass area, like festivals and things like that?
I can answer this one. There's this really great place right in downtown. There's a few different options. It's called the Drake. They pretty much have live music there most nights. There was recently something called Battle of the Bands that was hosted by this organization on campus called WMUA, which is a 24/7 radio station. And so they got 5 different bands from the 5 college consortium, and they all competed. There was a lot of live music. There was a recent live music show there also on Friday night that knew a bunch of people that went to. And then we also have something in our student union called the Black Box Theater, where there's more live music, live events being hosted. So there is a plethora of live music in the Amherst area, as it makes sense in being Western Massachusetts.
Probably have time for one more question, and then we'll do some wrap up.
Are you allowed to feed the animals, like the geese and the squirrels? The geese have been looking.
That was a
for fun.
perfect last question. Thank you.
So according to like all the wildlife like habitat conservation places, you should not be feeding wild animals because it encourages their dependency on humans, and it makes them more aggressive. Like they're no longer wild animals, they're like slightly domesticating them. So no, but have I before? Yes.
I'm gonna say you can't stop it.
Yeah, the squirrels are really fat on campus, probably for good reason.
You can join the squirrel watching club if you want to get like all up and close. We do have one of those.
That was amazing. We are going to do final pieces of advice. Think about your 17-year-old self making your college admissions decision. What piece of advice would you give yourself? And then also, why UMass? And then we'll wrap up from there.
I have like 2 main pieces of advice that I would give incoming freshmen when they get to UMass. The first one being try to spend as minimal time in your dorm as possible your freshman year. Like get out and just say yes to things, go try new things. Your freshman year, you'll have like the most time to be able to do that and explore a little bit, download a bunch of different things. And I think that's what helped me most, like meeting people that I'm still connected to now, and like furthering what I'm actually interested in. And the second one is like every connection is a good connection. Just get out and meet people. Like I said, say yes to things. You'll find yourself getting a lot more involved and knowing a lot more people on campus than you might think that you would otherwise.
I can go next. My why UMass and my piece of advice, I think, segue nicely into each other. After high school, I did not want to go to university. I was really burnt out after high school. I pretty much did everything underneath the sun you could possibly think of. And so I decided to take a gap year. And on my gap year, I traveled the world. I found out a lot more about myself, who I was as a person, what I wanted to do with the next 60 years of my life, I guess. And I took this time to kind of figure out who I was and what was important to me, which I think is super important to do at like such a young age, although by no means do I still know who I am now. It's a big decision to be making with your future at 20 years old. But I learned a lot more about myself and what I wanted in school, and I wanted a place where I had the most opportunities. I think having a plethora of opportunities and being able to choose which opportunities you follow through on is super important. If you're just limited already by the amount of opportunities you're offered, then it's hard to make most of them, versus if you have too many opportunities, like what is there to complain about that? So that's kind of why I chose UMass, and why that's my advice for you, is make the most of the opportunities you have.
Yeah, so when I was a senior in high school, my parents did not love me because I applied to 19 different schools. So I was pretty all over the place. I had no idea what I wanted. I had no idea if I wanted a big or small school. And like Donna said, you really don't know what kind of college you want until you get there and you get to it. So my biggest piece of advice would be trust your gut, trust your intuition. I think you know when you visit what school is right for you. Like when I stepped foot onto UMass and I toured with one of our lovely tour guides over there, I knew that this was the place for me, and then I just felt at home. So trust your gut, trust your intuition, and give yourself grace. I wish someone had told me that. I wish someone had told me it was going to be okay, and that just Celia, take a deep breath, it's all going to work out. And like I said earlier, that piece of advice, if you can make a big school small, but you can't make a small school big, that is probably the single most helpful thing that really helped me get through that transition process. And if for some reason you don't choose right the first time, just know it's okay. I know some people who transferred their sophomore, junior, and even senior year. And then I kind of chose UMass because of the community that I found here, the opportunities here, the people that I met. I meet someone new here every single day, and every single person I met has been a kind and genuine person, as well as my professor. So it's genuinely the best school in the world, and I'm not just getting paid to say that. I love it.
So my piece of advice would be to not leave anything on the table, just like out. If you're even somewhat interested in an opportunity that comes your way, just ask about it, ask questions, but don't just like bypass it because you think you may not get it, or you just think it might not look good on your resume. But I recommend picking up every opportunity that comes your way, just running with it because it will truly help you build connections and just give you something more to like learn about. But for my UMass story, I did not want to come here at all. Actually, I live in the next town over. Both my sisters graduated from here. I don't want the whole legacy thing. Look how that ended up. But I ended up applying here, loving it. I became a tour guide at the end, so clearly loved it a little bit too much. But honestly, both of my sisters came here and they had amazing opportunities after. Like one of my sisters goes to medical school right now in Philadelphia, and the other one did her master's in public health at Tufts and now works at Columbia. So my parents are really happy, by the way. And it's just me in college trying to find my path. But I honestly recommend UMass to anyone. It's amazing. There's so much to do here. You meet amazing people. You have amazing opportunities. Amazing professors that would love to mentor you. And it's overall just a fun, happy campus.
Awesome. A big round of applause for our Alright, I'm going to hand it over to our tour guide staff who will split our groups and you will head out on tour. Enjoy the rest of your day.